Welcome to Opportunity Minded, a series for enterprise leaders, corporate strategists, and forward thinkers like you who want to drive business growth. Each episode focuses on a distinct strategic approach to help you unlock opportunities with actionable insights. I'm your host, Jessica, a producer at Euromonitor International, and today I'm joined by two experts, Rabia Yasmin, who's a global insight manager specializing in e-commerce, and Nadine Halleck, a consulting manager who specializes in channels. And today we'll be talking about retail channels, specifically how data-backed strategies can help you select and sell through the right channels. Let's kind of lay out some of the basics here. So can we start by just the simplest definition? What is a retail channel strategy?
At its core, a channel strategy is really a blueprint for how and where companies sell their products. But a common misconception is that it's only about, where consumers shop, but it's so much more than that.
Yeah, and I think it's figuring out about how to reach your consumers in the right place, at the right price, and in the right way.
Before we dive any deeper on channel strategies, I'd like to play a game that's going to help us get some definitions out onto the table. So here we go. Welcome to Opportunity Pyramid. We have a couple of players in this game who are set up for success. We're going to be working our way through this pyramid to my right. The categories are channel mix, know your shoppers, pick your partner, price check, eyes on evolution, and mind the gap. Each category has a list of related terms. Our contestants will take turns selecting a category and then trying to get the other person to guess as many terms as they can in 60 seconds. The person with the highest score at the end of the game takes home, I guess they take home opportunity, because that's the thing at the top of the pyramid. Rabia, I'd like for you to get us started. For this round, please select one of the categories in the bottom row.
Pick your partner.
Rabia, please describe for Nadine things to consider in retail partnerships. Ready?
Yeah.
Go.
The term is supply chain.
Some trucks.
Distribution,
Clothes. Yeah.
supply chain, supply logistics.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
The term is growth potential.
A green plant evolving into a tree.
Growth potential.
Got it.
Yeah. Correct. um,
The term is consumers.
the number of people in a country that can buy your product.
So I would think of that as a customer profile, like size of the customer, size of the prize, something like that.
Yeah, it's consumer, so it's
Consumer,
there's a difference,
yes.
but it's close. Yeah.
Very good. All right, that was a minute. Excellent work. Nadine, now you're up. What category would you like to tackle here?
I will choose know your consumer.
Okay, please describe for Rabia things you need to know about your consumer. 60 seconds on the clock. Ready?
Okay.
Go.
The term is segmentation.
So typically companies will group consumers in different areas so that they can target them better. We call that consumer
Segmentation.
ding.
The term is willingness to pay.
And then when a consumer is buying something, they may not be able to afford it. So we have to assess something for their ability to be able to afford that. What would we call that term?
It's consumers' ability to spend.
We'll take that.
Okay.
The term is price sensitive.
Again, on the costing point. So if someone can't afford something, again, this is a different topic. They may be more adverse to be able to afford something. So that we call those consumers. Finish the sentence.
Price sensitive.
Yes, there we
Yay.
go.
All right,
Oh.
and that is time. Perfect.
That's a lot
done,
harder
guys.
than I thought.
Excellent work, both of you. Let's put a pin in this game for now. We'll come back to it later. And let's talk through some of these topics. Going back to what brings us here today. Why is optimizing your retail channel strategy so important?
Optimizing your channel strategy is about optimizing your channel presence, and it's becoming more and more important. So let's say you're in a physical store, there are 10 to 20 other brands that are offering more or less the same product as you are. This is the same in a physical store, like on a shelf and on a website. The channel optimization helps your brand stand out and it's becoming more critical as the landscape's becoming more crowded, and winning in any channel is becoming more important.
In such a competitive environment, I think it's not enough for brands to ask what's the right channel. It's increasingly becoming around what's the right mix of products, the right partner, the right price. The goal isn't just to understand your presence across channels, but really to maximize the spend per consumer.
As Nadine's talking about the different channels and channel mix, it's not about one channel, how it's about how different channels work along each other. So if you're selling online, how do I drive traffic from the store to my online platform or my online partners? And from my online presence, how do I leverage that online presence to back to the store? So it's not like one channel works against the other. It's more about how they all work together.
When we first got started, Rabia was defining channel strategy, and she said finding your consumers. That was the first thing. So, is that typically the first step, consumer research?
So figuring out your customers is really important. How they shop, how they engage with brands, what are they buying in the channels, before thinking about your retail partnerships. From there, I think a brand can then understand which retailers fit their customer profile. For example, you might, whether you're targeting a bargain hunters or premium buyers or even digital natives, so those that are, looking at social media, understanding where and how to connect them at the right time and place, and also most importantly at the right price. So this does continuously evolve. So it's important to keep a track or a pulse on these changes.
Really knowing your customer is the first step in building your channel strategy, and you can't be really selling to everyone because that's realistically not possible. So in that sense, there's a customer that I know is looking for the product that I'm selling, and at the same time there's a customer that I want to target to sell my product. So we need to define the channel strategy in a way that who is the customer that's looking for my product, and at the same time, if I'm targeting a particular consumer profile, how do I reach out to that consumer or shopper? Really understanding the design of the consumer behavior can answer a lot of questions around your channel strategy.
That makes a lot of sense. So let's dive into making those channel mix decisions. How does your product category influence retail channel choice?
Every product comes with its own shoppers. It comes with its own consumer, their expectations, their behaviors are different. So take fresh food, for example, that demands speed, trust, also reliable logistics because of the fresh food being cold in nature. So you'll find different platforms in that thrive in this space, and they're built around rapid grocery delivery. While on the other hand, your consumables or your electronics, customers really care about range, comparison, and deals. So you're going to see marketplaces like Best Buy in the US or JD.com in China that are naturally a fit for those products. Another industry that's really key, a $1 trillion industry, is the fashion and beauty industry, which is very different from your everyday or your functional products because they're also driven by emotion and identity. So product discovery and personalized engagement becomes more critical. A fashion brand or a beauty brand can better connect with a customer through social media like TikTok or marketplaces or their own direct-to-consumer site with smart algorithms for product discovery, purely because that product category is by nature a discovery-led industry. So every industry, every product and category has its own nuance, its own channel fit, its own consumer buying behavior. So an effective channel strategy has to cut across those consumer and product categories.
You see, there is this one lens of understanding the category behavior in a particular channel. I was just looking at our e-commerce data earlier this week, and I saw a Chinese premium alcoholic drinks brand, and it's among the top 10, global e-commerce brands. Now imagine the scenario that if two alcoholic brands are just sitting across each other and they're talking about their e-commerce experience, and they will be talking, oh, it's very difficult to sell alcoholic drinks online because of A, B, and C challenges. You can just talk about the numerous regulatory challenges alone. But what you saw with this brand is, despite category not having that sort of maturity online, they've really cracked the code of selling online to an extent that they're one of the leading brands globally. So it's more about knowing what you want to achieve, and then working on a strategy and working with more category agnostic and market agnostic data set, which could be developed working with a partner, and then understanding that fit that's for your product and for brand.
What do you need to know about your competitors when you're working on channel mix?
So I've mentioned earlier that competition is rising, and it's not just about brand versus brand. So knowing who your competitors are, it's the crucial step. But also, what are they selling, and what are their tactics, like their promotional activities, their partnerships, their presence across the channels. So are they prioritizing marketplaces? Are they investing in direct to consumer? Do they lean more heavily on offline growth? Also how they're performing in terms of their market share and in relation to yours. It's important to look at this from both a category perspective and also a channel perspective to really understand where your position might be threatened in both the emerging players, so up and coming brands, or at the top, at the leaders of the categories. Combining this along with penetration of channels, you can really understand both the competitive market and how important it is for you to invest in the right channel, one that's high impact and one that's maybe not overcrowded with competition.
We've spoken a little bit about partnerships, but can you speak more about what role retail partnerships play?
I think they play a very important role beyond just knowing what's the biggest retailer for products like mine. What are the retailers my competitors are selling on? What is the price point of that retailer? These are very basic questions. I would just call them, a basic checklist sort of questions. But if you go beyond that, the role of retail partnership is critical for your brand in order to deliver the value that you want to convey to your consumer. And then another part is, to have good retail partnerships, you really need to also know the supply chain of your industry, your product and brand, and then connecting the dots to really build that value-driven model, be it's on a lower price point in the value chain, or it's on a premium price positioning. But in both cases, you really need to develop your retail partnerships that offer value to your relationship and to that with your consumers. Yeah.
Yeah, I would have to completely agree. I mean, especially if you're looking for unlocking the next potential in the marketplace or you're entering a new market. But I also think it's not the only way to unlock growth, or to find the best fit for a brand. Many brands have turned to marketplaces for that very reason, in terms of reach and visibility, also that established logistics. But at the same time, growth has been coming from other avenues, direct to consumer sales, in terms of a company investing in their own site, their own infrastructure, their own delivery, maybe partnering with a delivery platform or player. And this can be particularly strong in categories where we see repeat purchases or high personal and storytelling elements, like the fashion industry, for example, or even beauty and personal care. But yeah, I think it's important to understand where that potential next growth opportunity is going to come from, where consumers are pivoting, and how your category might perform across those different platforms, both offline and online.
Does the size or stage of my brand affect how I approach channel mix?
To a certain extent, yes, because at every stage of your brand evolution, you have different priorities. There, there are, trade-offs that you have to make as you evolve. So an early stage brand might need a marketplace like Amazon to be, in order to be seen well. But that not might be case when you have grown a bit, in a larger, you have grown a bit more in your size and scale, because then you might need to have a bit more control over your consumers. So maybe you go on Amazon and then your brand is available to 200 million consumers and that it's being sold by a lot of third-party players, but you don't have any direct sales, or you have zero control over what price are they selling on, how they're delivering, what's the quality of the experience of your brand.
There are so many channels, and it feels like there are new ones popping up all the time.
Brands don't really have to jump on every new channel that pops up. I think they really need to test and understand, where they can potentially integrate some of these emerging channels.
I think even the definition of the channel has evolved. Initially, like a few years back, 10 years or 20 years back, a channel was just a medium to sell your product. But today it's much more than that. It's about, communicating the essence of your brand, the messaging, how your brand makes your consumers feel. And a lot of these new emerging channels have done that really well.
Consumers are directly buying through TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, live streams. And brands are really leaning into this, using social media to connect with consumers through creator-led content and also shoppable posts that are being incorporated as part of their core channel mix. In other words, they're taking notice of consumers. As we mentioned, consumers in the beginning, it's really where any brand would pivot it and focus its strategy. But they're really trying to meet consumers in a moment of inspiration and not just intent through social media and through these new and emerging live streaming platforms.
Well, that's an excellent tie back to kind of where we started, which is that this channel strategy is so much more than where. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have another round of Opportunity Pyramid. Rabia and Nadine will unpack the right price and right way, and then we'll hear about why you need to mind your insight gap.
Today, maybe you finally got your pricing strategy figured out, but tomorrow, it's outdated, and the day after that, everything changes again. Economic uncertainty, from rising inflation to sudden tariff changes, can make tracking pricing a nightmare. But staying on top of pricing is critical if you want to remain competitive. Euromonitor's price tracking solution lets you monitor the SKUs, brands, retailers, and categories that matter most. You get a single source of truth for pricing data, housed in easy-to-use BI dashboards and tailored reports, while automated data pipelines ensure you always receive the latest insights with no manual updates required. The ability to track SKUs across retailers, marketplaces, and your competitors so you can see the prices consumers are actually paying helps you respond faster and smarter to changing conditions. So even when the rules change overnight, Euromonitor helps you stay agile, protect your margins, and seize opportunities. Try our price tracking solution for free today.
Welcome back to Opportunity Minded. Actually, it's Opportunity Pyramid. Let's get right back into it. Nadine, you get first pick this time. Please select your category from the blue categories only.
Okay, I will choose price check.
Okay. Nadine, please describe for Rabia what makes pricing crucial to a channel strategy. Ready?
I'm ready.
Great. 60 seconds on the clock. Go.
The term is marketing.
Okay, when we're companies trying to reach consumers, they usually go out with a whole campaign. What do we call that? So advertisements.
Marketing campaign.
Yes.
The term is targeting.
Okay, so now we're trying to aim our product at a specific person, and we're gonna aim like almost like you're shooting an arrow, like a bow and arrow. You shoot it at a like a big round bullseye.
Targeting.
There we go.
The term is competitors.
Okay, so the brands that we are in the race to win with, what do we call those other brands? The ones that are, which vying for market shares. So
Competitors.
yes.
The term is price tier.
So again, thinking about costs of a product, there's different ranges. You got low range, high range. What do we call that whole thing? Low, mid,
Price range.
like premium.
We'll take it. That was 1 minute. Great work. Okay, Rabia, you are up next. What category would you like to choose here?
Category Eyes on Evolution.
Great. Describe for Nadine emerging retail channels, and how to keep up. 60 seconds on the clock. Ready?
Yes.
Go.
The term is live streaming.
So in Asia, a lot of people are selling things via a video call,
Live streaming?
as an example. Yes.
The term is messaging apps.
So for this one, what's a messenger? Like the messenger in your
App?
phone and your iPhone. Yeah, what sort of app is it?
Social media app?
We'll take that.
Yeah, it's a messaging app. Yeah.
That's good.
The term is AI.
This is a very hot topic right now, and everybody is talking about it. It's 2 alphabets when it's an acronym.
The I.
I didn't even need to explain it.
Yeah. Hot topic. I knew what you were
Yeah.
talking about.
And that was 1 minute. Well done, guys. Thank you so much. Let's get into some of these topics. We left off right before the break talking about right consumer and right place. So can we talk now about right price?
If your consumers are not willing to pay, then how are you going to sell that brand or your brand at a specific channel? So your strategy really needs to align with where your right to win is within the consumer's willingness to pay. If it's in the upper tiers, they might be looking at it for a choice between 2 different products based on brand credibility or preference, product design, functionality. While if your right to win is in lower price tiers, then often you face more competition as a brand, and your consumers' choice is going to be driven by price. So then you're going to really try to understand what is the right price within that bracket, within that lower tier bracket, the right promotionals, discounting, and how you can pull those levers to really keep your market share or keep your penetration. It's also important to understand at a channel level that different retailers, both offline and online, also occupy different positions. So you can have 2 retailers that look very much the same from the onset. For example, they could be 2 supermarkets. But once you dig deeper into their assortment, their pricing, and even the way that they market themselves, you may realize as a brand that they're targeting different consumers. One might lean more towards affluent shoppers, the other may be more of a lower to income range consumer target. So they could carry the same brands, but essentially you will go in with different prices.
All right, then all that's left to talk about is reaching your consumers in the right way. What does that mean?
Knowing where to put your product and whatever price and all other factors is one aspect, but then how do you speak to your customer and how do you actually serve the customer? But storytelling is becoming very critical in order to communicate the value to your consumer.
If you're a brand that's an offline majority, like maybe you're a fashion retailer or maybe you're selling fashion brands and you still rely on that foot traffic to go into the store, you can, however, engage with and use those storytelling elements with consumers through social media engagement, even through your DTC site. You may not generate sales online, but it is going to lead to product discovery and ultimately support your offline, foot traffic. So I think digital platforms aren't just driving sales; they're increasingly also becoming product discovery, and creating a space for brand connection and engagements.
At the end of the day, probably the shopper might be making a decision based on how the value was communicated to them and how they were really served, as a shopper. So you can get the right partner, you can get the right price, but if your product doesn't resonate with the consumer, they can still ignore it and your brand will remain sitting on the shelf.
Why do you think it is that companies struggle with having a clear picture of their channel performance? I mean, especially with something as complicated as e-commerce.
I think understanding what data sets should be defined as the data sets to know e-commerce performance is very crucial. So knowing what you're looking for. We know there are many sources of data out there. Someone might be just sharing how much traffic is going on an online site, but is that really a translation of the e-commerce performance. Not really. You might be looking at a particular category, but is that data really matching with the product level information that you're looking for? It might be a very broad category, for example, skincare, but your product might be a sunscreen. And if you don't have the data set at sunscreen level, it's very easy to get lost. So having some sort of a specialist or someone who knows what we're talking about and has standardized data sets that speak to each other. The data sets we have, for example, our retail data speaks to the e-commerce channel. Likewise, our category data speaks to the industry data. So there's no conflict of definition.
So what I'm hearing here is that I can't, call on our hot topic AI and ask it to give me some numbers and call it a day.
You can ask ChatGPT, hi, can you forecast this sunscreen category for me based on your analysis of the macro drivers or the weather today? And I'm sure ChatGPT will get the weather wrong today, but it will give you a result. But on a serious note, actually, if you have to go and defend those results, AI would not go with you to your board or to your investor and sit with you and explain why it thought of that particular, trend or whatever insight it gave you. But it will also not give you the reason behind it.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, especially the why behind the numbers to make the best decisions. We all know that e-commerce is growing, but the real question is, why is it growing? What is driving that growth in e-commerce? How is it being driven at your category level? And what does this signal for your brand? And especially what patterns should you be tracking closely, both in competitors and at the category level. And again, that speaks to Rabia's point of having those experts can really help guide you and knowing that the data is in that ecosystem standardized and having the ability to cross compare across countries, markets, channels, and categories.
Let's talk about the future. Especially in such a fast-paced and complicated environment, how can anyone keep up with their current best channel fit, much less plan out a few years from now?
I think the more complex and quickly evolving the landscape is becoming, and there are risks in becoming too rigid or relying on a one-time in point sort of analysis or doing, one single lens to your planning of your channel strategy. So as a result of this, there's also no best fit. Companies need to be very agile now in not only in their time horizon, but also moving between channels. So for example, the contribution that you get from Amazon might only be useful for a particular quarter and not for the whole year. But then for the rest of the year, maybe it's better to invest in a direct to consumer, platform to have that, first party interaction, keeping your brand equity and whatnot. But as a result of all these dynamics, I think companies need to be more agile. They need to have a strategic view, and then it should be complemented with a more objective and tactical, like a shorter term view.
Building a channel plan means both having those tactical data points to pull those levers short term and also having a longer term picture, even if it's 3 years, 5 years, depending on the scenarios that you may be facing. But it's essentially identifying and understanding what the channels of today will look like tomorrow and using those 3-year forecasts to guide those investments or 5-year forecasts. To really be able to understand what are those reasons. Is it pricing? Is it consumer behavior, competitive moves, and not just, having the projections, for example. These typically translate into 1 or 2 year investment plans that typically are refreshed annually. And because we know the markets change rapidly, there's ongoing disruptions to consumers, to supply chains. We also incorporate scenario analysis. It's often a common feature or common theme to ensure both flexibility and resilience during that 1 year before the next update or refresh for that forecast. So we know that the world is changing rapidly, but it's maybe more often than not, it could be in a positive direction for the brand that's already invested in that channel.
If you had to bet on one retail platform that's going to completely reshape the future landscape, what would you choose?
I I'm gonna say the platform that will shape the future landscape of channels or is the next disruptive thing is not a platform, a retail platform as of now. So ChatGPT, for example, is not an official retail platform as of now, but it is going to be very quickly evolving into probably one of the biggest disruptors after Amazon.
Yeah, I mean, how can I top that? I fully agree. I think if I had to think of one, the only one, because I don't personally shop that much on it, is TikTok, because we don't have that in my country. But the more and more I hear our clients and my colleagues talking about it, TikTok shop is exploding, and companies are investing in this platform. So it's already disrupted, but we never know how maybe TikTok or ChatGPT start working together in future for product discovery or for reaching more consumers and search algorithms and all of that. So yeah, I would bet on definitely what Rabia said, and I would definitely bet on TikTok globally.
I would probably pick live stream selling because those women who change dresses so fast are
Yes.
superhuman. So they're going to change the world. Before we go, if you could both give one piece of advice to a company that's struggling to optimize their channel strategy, what would that be?
I think don't Google your channel strategy or use ChatGPT straightforwardly to optimize your channel strategy. Work with an expert or a retail partner or a data partner that can help you, deliver that value.
Cut through the noise, understand where that opportunity is. You can't capture every one of them. So again, going back to partnering with a data provider and insights to really understand where your opportunity is and cut through all that noise and data that's available out there.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning into this episode of Opportunity Minded, brought to you by Euromonitor International, the first destination for organizations seeking growth. A big thank you to Nadine and Rabia for sharing their expertise with us today. Where can people get in touch with you if they'd like to reach out?
Yeah, LinkedIn I think would be great. We'd love to hear from you.
And stay connected with us on social media or visit our website to explore more resources and join our community. Until next time, stay opportunity minded. By round 2, you guys are going to be experts.
I will lose.